Γεια σας, καλώς ήρθατε σε ένα ακόμη επίμετρο του JukeBooks. Σήμερα θα μιλήσουμε με την Maja Lunde. Έχω τη μεγάλη χαρά και τη μεγάλη τιμή να έχω μαζί μου την Maja Lunde κοντά μου, η οποία βρίσκεται στην Αθήνα για την παρουσίαση του καινούριου της βιβλίου, η ιστορία των δέντρων, που κυκλοφορεί από τις εκδόσεις Κλειδάριθμος και είμαστε στον φιλόξενο χώρο του ξενοδοχείου The Modernist. Maja, welcome. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
I will go straight to the stories of your books because I love them. I'm a huge fan, I must say that. And when I first read the story of the bees, I was touched and very much engaged by the way that you gave the message that you wanted to give. And this was how climate crisis is going to change our lives. So I would like you to tell me, how did you come up with this idea, with this narrative?
Well, that book actually started when I saw a documentary about the importance of bees and how much we need pollinating insects. And the idea was there immediately. And with these three timelines, the past, the present, and the future, and these three characters as well. And for me, the stories always start with the person, the people that I write about. And without them, I don't have a story. So from the very beginning, I knew I wanted to write about William, George, and Tao.
And you're giving the stories of these three people and their family, their circles. And one is in the past, one is in the kind of the present time, and the other one is in the future. And this way you show us what's happening in the future if we continue like we're going now. And this must have taken you very much studying on your side, right? Unless your job, your occupation is related to studying the environment, to me it sounds very hard.
Yes, and this book is about bees and it's about what can happen if the pollinating insect and bees especially disappear from the planet. And I didn't know anything about bees or beekeeping before I started to write. But it's usually like that, with all my novels. I don't know much about what I write about before I start to write. Then I do a lot of research, I read a lot of books, I see a lot of documentaries, and I talk to a lot of experts. And I also have expert readers throughout the process. It feels almost like writing a master thesis every time. But I guess I really love books where I learn something, and therefore I think I like to write books where the reader can actually learn something too. Mm-hmm. To get both a good story and learn something new. Get into something you didn't know anything of before you started to read.
And this book of this series, it had a huge success. It was very successful. How did you receive this? Did you expect this? I mean, it's translated in 35 languages.
It's actually 14 now.
Okay, yeah. So it was 35 when this book was printed, but now it's how much? How many?
40. Yeah, 40.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay. So were you expecting such a success, worldwide success?
No, not at all. And it's surreal, I think. And it's not something I think too much about. I try to keep my life as normal as I can. And it's really, it's surreal. These books have sold 4 million copies now, I think, which is really just very hard for me to imagine. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I was 40 when this happened, because instead of letting it change me, I try to let it not change me at all. I try to just stay the same person and keep on writing, because that's what I love to do.
And I understand that since you have started writing these books, your life has changed in a way that it has become more friendly to the environment, right? So you have changed as a person through writing these books.
Well, the environment and the climate crisis have always been, the main topics for me. It's always been something I've been very engaged in. But I have tried to live even greener after writing these books, because I learned so much about the climate and nature crisis. And of course, all this knowledge makes me want to try even harder. But I'm not perfect, but I try as good as I can.
So after the bees came the ocean, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this was the second book. And this is another story. These are other stories of other people. And the concept is the same, but it's about a different type of violation of the environment.
It's about water and lack of water. And it's about both fresh water and salt water. And it's about the present in Norway. It's also about a future, 2041 in Europe, where we really see the consequences of the climate changes. And it's about sailing on the ocean as well. And sailing is actually something I've done quite a lot of during my life. My father has always had a boat. And so I sailed a lot when I was little. So in this book, I wrote about something I knew a bit about before.
Okay. As you know, in Greece, we suffered a lot from the climate crisis in the last year. We had the floods very recently and huge fire that burnt out almost completely one of the forests, one of the biggest forests in Greece. So we have been there and we have seen what the climate change can do to lives. But you are taking it a step further. And I think that since you started writing these books, we are coming closer and closer to what you are describing. How does that make you feel?
Sad. And when I started to write the history of bees and the ocean, I actually wondered if when trying to describe 2041, I felt like I was maybe too extreme, that this was too close in time. But I talked to a water expert and I looked at a lot of climate research. And this is actually a realistic scenario. And that scares me so much. And I feel so sorry for what you're going through right now. And especially Greece is a country I have a very close relationship to. As I said, I used to sail when I was a kid, and that was in Greece. So I sailed a lot in Greece. And now my father owns a house on Lonisos, and he was there when Daniel hit. So I really follow you closely. So this is a book about France, but it could have been Greece as well. And it's just terrible to see how hard the climate changes hit already, especially here.
And going to your two latest books, The Story of the Horses and The Story of the Trees, which is the book that you are touring and visiting countries about now. I think that what you're describing, especially in this one, we can see in what happened in Greece earlier this year, before the floods, and this is the wildfires in the forests. And it's scary. It's really scary when you read this book to see how close we are to something like that. I mean, I have been following your work through the years, and I don't know if I'm pretty sure that you're studying a lot, but you're always one step ahead from what we're actually seeing. It's scary, like in a bad way and in a good way, if you know what I mean.
And that's not because I have a very good imagination. It's because I read the climate reports and I do research. And so I tried, especially the last 3 books. The first one, I would say, it started with a question: what if all the pollinating insects disappeared? How would the world look like? The second 3, I've started more with looking at how will the world actually be if we don't stop the global warming and if we don't stop the nature crisis. And what do the researchers tell us? So therefore you can read them. It's fiction, but it's based on facts. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish this was just my imagination, but it's not.
How has Norway been affected by the climate change?
Oh, we see the climate change as well. We had floods, extreme floods this year, and it's worse than ever. So it's even more important now, I think, to talk about what we can and should do and where to find hope.
Have you discussed that with the experts that you've been talking to? Is there still time to reverse that? Are there things that we can do?
It's a lot we can do. And that's important for me to say, that these books, the world doesn't have to be like this. And also, of course, the books are very much about the past and the present, because it's only 1/3 of them approximately that is about the future. But in these books, I have actually tried to find hope. I didn't realize until writing the last 2 novels, but I think this is 2,000 pages about hope. It's a search for hope. That's what I've been doing while writing. Because I have two main questions in my head all the time when I wrote. And the first was, why did we, Homo sapiens, our species, became the species that changed the planet? How come? I mean, what kind of abilities do we have that made us different from all the other animals that we share this planet with? And the second question is, do we have it in us to make it up for our mistakes, to make this world actually be a better place for those who come after? I don't know if I have the answers, but for me, I think part of the solution is to look at our what's good in us, you know, our abilities to communicate, to write books, to deliver knowledge from one person to the next, and of course our ability to feel empathy and to love, and to help not only each other but also other species on this planet. And I would say the story of the horses, that's a story I was drawn into because it's a story about hope. It's a story about how a few passionate people managed to save these very special horses and to raise the race from there were only 13 individuals in the world. And they managed to raise it again and to reintroduce the horses to Mongolia, which is the country that they originally came from. And this is something we can do, you know. The human being can do things like this. We can do grand and wonderful things, and we communicate so well with each other, and we cooperate so well. I mean, look at COVID, how much we did in so short time. So we need to talk more about not only what we are doing bad and how things are going bad, but also what we are able of. And I think the books are about that as well.
So these 4 books, people in Greece can now also hear on an audiobook platform called JukeBooks. And I would like you to tell me, what is your relationship with audiobooks? Do you listen to it? Have you ever listened to your books? I know you cannot listen to them in Greek, but, you know, in Norwegian maybe, or in English.
I have listened to them, and they're wonderful productions. And I think it's so nice to hear them because the actors give them an extra dimension, and they give them something new, you know. So I really like to listen to books, and of course, I listen to books when I can't read. I love to read paper books as well. But listening is something I can do when I drive, or when I do housework, or when I walk. So it's another way of, you know, getting into stories and getting stories when you are not able of, when you can't read.
Have you been asked to make a documentary about these books? Or maybe films?
A film? I'm actually making a TV series.
Really?
A fiction TV series.
In English?
Mostly, because I think they will talk the language that, I mean, the first one, two of the main characters are English speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, and the second is French and Norwegian, so probably French and Norwegian then. And
that's amazing. That's
the third is Russian and German and Norwegian, so yeah.
So we are reading the books, we are able to listen to the books, and now we'll be able also to see the stories.
Hopefully.
Wow,
yeah.
that's
but
amazing.
You know how the TV industry is, it takes forever, so...
It's fine, at some point we will. Congratulations on all the series. Congratulations on your new book, The Story of the Trees. In Greece, we can find them in Klitharithmos. And I wish you a very good tour for your new book. And good luck with the TV series. I'm looking forward to it as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ που ήσασταν μαζί μας σε ένα ακόμη επίμετρο του JukeBooks. Να είστε καλά.